Born and raised Nashville, Tennessee. I went to FD round one, year one at Road Atlanta with some Nashville friends of mine. And you know, even before FD, even before drifting made the movement, it did around that time in early 2000s in the US. My dad took me to Road Atlanta again, but this was back when I was still in high school. He took me there for Petit Le Mans, back when the American Le Mans series was still a thing. And I knew even then, being around like the real race cars and like that environment, that I wanted to be involved, I wanted to be a part of it. But I don't know if it was, I don't know if you want to call it the realism or maybe like setting my goals low because they're easier to reach. But I knew I wanted to be a part of it, so maybe it was like as a part of the production, as a part of the team. I mean, everybody that likes cars growing up wants to be a race car driver. But I just knew I wanted to be in the mix.
Colleen Hitzel, and I am the media manager and content producer for Gridlife.
And mascot? Smiles of Gridlife.
Greg Bussell?
Greg Bussell? I guess the first time I realized cars are something I want to be part of is actually a story my mom tells me. I was a little kid, I was maybe 2 years old, and I was in a hospital waiting room with a cold. And in the hospital waiting room, there was a toy car, and I picked it up and I started making car noises with it. But at this time, I had not spoken any words. I was not even like walking, from what I understand. I was just a little kid. I was making car noises with my car. My mom was like, oh, this kid loves cars, you know? And as time kind of progressed, my dad, got into cars, and I got into cars, and I knew it was exactly what I needed to do from there on. So my very first job when I was 15 to where I am today, I have not had a job that wasn't car oriented. And it's because I love this industry and I love the people in it. I love this hobby so much that there's no other, there's no other direction I'd want to go with my life. This is it. I'm exactly where I want to be. If I died tomorrow, I'd have no regrets because this is where I want to be.
Good answer. I came from an action sports company called Electric. They were one of the eyewear technical sponsors for Formula Drift, so that's how I got exposed to the drifting world, but I came from action sports. So I freelanced for them on the ground for some of the local events. And that kind of led to Jared introducing me to Chris Stewart. And he needed to find someone he could trust to do social during the events because he was doing that and he didn't have time. And I was like, I'm your girl. Like, I can do everything on the fly. I can take photos, I can grab raw videos, make new stories. Like, I know all the guys, all the main guys, so I'm in. So my first Gridlife was at Midwest 4 years ago, and ever since I've been hooked. I kind of was like, I could make this a full-time job. It'd be a full dream job. I shot festivals, music festivals in my 20s, so I love the festival life and I love the grind.
Sean Fenton, strategy director, Gridlife. No, Chris Stewart was the start of Gridlife, but I've been to every Gridlife. Almost 2 years ago, I started full-time. And usually that can mean anything from handling a lot of the partnership deals that go on through Gridlife, as well as conceptually trying to think of new things and activations we could do at Gridlife, especially when you think of what does a Gridlife Alpine Horizon mean? Well, how do we even get the name for that?
Mike Cohn, assistant producer. So my older brother, Jeremy, was racing autocross before I got my license. But he'd always show me video and like go to track days. So that got me interested in it. I had a 98 Civic EX Coupe, straight off deep end into autocross. It starts with Honda Meet, so what Chris originally created. And my first one was 2006. 2007, I started knowing people more, knowing Adam more, knowing Chris more, and everybody else behind the scenes on that.
Adam Jabay, and I am the motorsports director and co-founder of Gridlife. Yeah, Gridlife Touring Cup, like my background, I got pretty heavily involved with SCCA racing, lower horsepower, economy car kind of stuff. I was driving a CRX, I had a Civic, and I just built another Civic. Chris and I both kind of come from the 88 to 91 Honda world, which is an odd place for guys that host drift events, I guess, to come from. But yeah, the EF Honda chassis, that's how Chris and I met in a parking lot like in 99, 2000. If you go to a wheel-to-wheel race like Gridlife, SCCA or NASA, there's no spectators. There's no young people. They don't know it exists. And so I had this like passion like rammed it down Chris's throat. Like, I want to show young people wheel to wheel because I think it's the raddest. We sort of decided, like, if we find the sweet spot of like all these kind of broken toys and forgotten toys of race cars, and then like, the popular cars in the Midwest, we find this sweet spot of rules, we can maybe pull some cars from other groups to play with each other once in a while because they never play together. Find a bunch of cars that don't really have a home anymore. But we tried to find this home for a lot of cars where they could all race, and you could put as many of them on one track as the track would allow, usually 25 cars a mile. And they're all in one class, so the spectators see that, that guy's racing that guy is racing that guy, and they're all relatable, purchasable cars, cars that they drive, the spectators. And I wanted to show good battles, and we've tried to build the stories around some of the drivers, and so far it's turned out really, really well. 11 really successful races. We really encourage no contact, no crashing, super clean racing, and haven't had any incidents of contact in 11 races. We had a 40-car field at Midwest Festival. It was just like the most banger racing I've ever seen and been a part of. So that was kind of my passion project for the last few years, and it's turned out really well.
So back to, where I met everyone at Drift Indy, again, they needed someone to just stand there and sit in a car on track, and I knew, I was like, I'm gonna make this mine. What I'm doing for them, I'm gonna make it mine, and I knew really early on that I wanted to identify as that. There's not much coverage of grid, and I'm happy with that because I can get pretty animated. I have my own sign language that I'm still developing as I go, but I have to speak with my hands. I was getting a lot of positive feedback, not just from the team, but from the drivers, and that was the most important one. And the fact that I'm doing it because I want them to have a better time. If they're able to do what I need them to do, they're gonna enjoy it better, because a lot of the motivation behind my methods is their experience. Average all this in so that to the spectators and to the media, it's just one constant flow of drift cars. So I conduct that, like an orchestra. I'm just reminding them their notes, and I want them to groove And because when they're grooving, I can groove, and that's when shit just takes off.
First heard about Gridlife, I was writing articles for a company called S3 Magazine. And these guys made it out to a Gridlife, and that year the Gridlife got rained on the whole entire time, and it was freezing cold. And for some reason, the fans stayed the whole time, and the concert went on. I mean,
I heard they had 10, they were all holding like easy ups.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
side by side, and everyone was just partying under the easy ups,
Real
watching the
small.
music. Yeah, in front of the stage.
Yeah, everybody just
so
wanted to
much.
still be part of it. I said, all right, I've got to see what this is kind of about. And they linked me up with Chris Stewart, and Chris said, come out, help me out with some drifting stuff, you know, and kind of go through this pass, and we'll see if we can utilize you. And yeah, I think it was from the first day that I stepped foot on like Gridlife premises, I was like, this is something I got to be part of. This is completely different from everything I've been part of. Anything I've ever seen throughout motorsports, drifting, car shows, car culture, period. And I'm not even a big music festival person myself, but I really started to embrace like enjoying this music and being part of like that nightlife with my friends.
Finding weekends to spend with your friends to build memories are very far and few between. And this is like, you know, you do all the FD events, but it's competition. It's not all parties. So when we come out here, everyone's ready to hang, have a good time, make memories. And I honestly have built more memories with the crew in the last few years than I have with some of the people I've known my whole life in the last few years. So we've really, just have this crazy bond as a team. And I think bond and passion, we just exude it, and it bounces off on everyone else. So it's really critical, I think, for the success of this festival, for the team to be as strong and passionate as we are.
I think we're all kind of aware that what we're doing is something unique to do, and it's exciting for each and every one of us.
I think Chris and myself are sort of perfectionists about things. We think a lot about experience, and both of us came from that advertising world where it's really over a decade of working together, hammered into our heads as far as what is that experience supposed to be from when they walk in. Does it feel immersive? Does it feel different? We're a motorsports event series. We're a lifestyle company. We're a festival producer. So it's sort of these different things, and a lot of people know of us for the festivals, but we also do up to 7 different track days throughout the year in between all this stuff. As far as what is Gridlife and everything, I recently saw my aunt at like a family gathering, and they're from Long Island, and my aunt comes up to me, she goes, "Oh, Sean, how is the singing and driving going?" And I thought, wow, Aunt Ann, you found like the most embarrassing way to describe Gridlife. Yeah, it's a giant car karaoke festival. The whole thing's built on being like, we've knocked on wood so many times, we've been so lucky so many times with deadlines and people that someone just shows up. It rests on a lot of shoulders, but it's built on a lot of volunteers and a lot of people that are really passionate and faithful, that love the idea, they believe in what we're doing, and I think that allows us to be lucky, because we've been pretty lucky with a lot of things.
When Gridlife kind of stepped up to the next step and we started getting more busy, and a lot of the time Chris was either working in his basement or in his office by himself, so I would just go and hang out and start to like pick up things here and there, whatever I could do. You know, I saw the people coming together and the dedication to this event that was happening. But more so it was like, I saw Chris's passion and I started understanding the dream behind it. And I wanted basically anything I can do to help usher that dream to reality. Friends of friends have showed up to help, and they did really well. So we asked them to come back. And if that keeps happening, then it gets tighter and tighter. But you know, people like Sean, Chris personally seeked him out because he knew the value that Sean had. But again, a lot of people are like me and just dedicate tons of hours, and then they become closer and closer and tighter into the Gridlife core. It is hard to describe and it is hard to define, but I think it's a hardworking attitude, but you gotta be able to like roll with the jokes, roll with the punches. As long as we know what we're doing, and even if we're pretending like we know what we're doing, and serving that with a smile, then it's like, that's the vibe.
The first time I heard the word Gridlife was Chris and I were working on, I think we were working on his his or his friend's Honda Element. We were racing 24 Hours and Lemons back then too, so we worked on cars a little bit. Chris got to know some drift guys because he helped produce a music video for Flosstradamus. I think it's the Underground video, and that features a bunch of Chicago drift cars. And that was kind of how he got exposed to some of the drift world. I didn't have anything to do with drift world. I didn't know any of that, and I just thought it was stupid until I realized it's not stupid. We were at my shop when he said it the first time, and I think about 6 months later was when we did it. It was early in the year, and then we had the first Gridlife in 14. So seems like a long time ago. But we just built a new wheel-to-wheel series, Gridlife Touring Cup, but we're trying to do things a little differently, and a lot of it is with the design of exposing it to a younger audience, and a lot of the younger audiences turn on because of music and drift cars. If you unify all those things and you do it with kind of a low-key but like guiding vibe and a smile rather than a bunch of guys yelling at you if you're doing things wrong, I think that's the success motorsports-wise, and I think those are the big pieces. And then we saw the nighttime drifting last night. I mean, I think that was the next piece to integrate it into the music world. To kind of blend those things together. It felt like last night was like one of the more special nights. The nighttime drift blew me away. It was unbelievable. And I was kind of blown away with what we could do here with some of the off-road elements, which are, we're moving into them on this event. I think in the next few years it's going to be a pretty big part of the event.
So yeah, it's just this giant group of friends, and what's unique also is since it's motorsport and car culture oriented, we're seeing the car show guys hanging out with the grip guys, hanging out with the drift guys, hanging out with people who don't even know them.
Which was essentially the whole point of this, was to bring all those different communities together into one event, to blend. Just everyone's super fired up, pretty much.
I truly believe that we have the best staff in each and every department in the U.S., without a doubt. Our stagehands, like each person that puts up, that's so quick, so efficient, so professional, down to even the people who are parking the cars for us. Like, everybody here is an absolute pro.
It's Chris is the guy, and yeah, but I'm just thankful every day that I can be a part of this.
Chris is so meticulous in everything he does that he knows when he hires somebody that they're going to be a lifelong employee. Because we don't really see, I don't think there is such thing as a turnover rate here.
The people at Pikes Peak International Raceway are super great, and they came out to our Midwest Festival in 2018, and we didn't know they were coming, and then they reached out afterwards and said we'd love to talk, and we had a first call with them. It went almost to like 3 hours long, talking about just anything and everything, and we ended up coming out here. And when you leave the end of a track meeting and you're hugging people, it's like these people are special. This is a little unique. This is like the staff, the ownership, everybody's fantastic here. So in that regard, when we came here, we started to talk to them, and it was sort of like a canvas, like, what can we do? Wouldn't it be great if? And all this stuff, and they have so much potential around these grounds of things that we could do. And we took a long walk on one night after we were here, and we're like, yes, this is what we should do. And then that added to the fact that they have no curfew here, they have no noise ordinance because they're firing artillery over those hills. We're like, okay, we can really push this into the evening, we can do something different, and like we could do drifting at night with the music going on. We could do, like, these ideas start happening, and then you just got to stitch them together in a way that makes sense. And so a lot of these things are beta programs here that we're already knowing how we're going to do things a little different, a little better next year.
For a first year festival, it was like better energy than we have at any festival almost in a concert. The crowd was so into it. The stage backs up to like the wildest part of the drift track. The inner horseshoe area, the Roval is so cool. It's been a lot of fun. I was the flagger for night shift drift in the carousel, and this girl or lady, I don't know how old she was. She was the most stoked person I've ever seen in my entire life. She'd never been anything like this. She just said, "Thank you guys so much for coming. I really hope that you do this forever because this is the best day I've ever had." And we've heard a lot of that from the drivers because it's unique to this place. Like we're doing things differently than anybody out here does, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's times in grid life where you just go, how am I getting away with this? Or how are we all doing this? There's these certain moments where you go, whoa. And I think one of my most favorite things that I ever did was, I think it was like me, Pat Gooden, like a few of the Hoonigan guys and stuff. And we were backstage at Waka Flocka playing dice. We were rolling dice and throwing money down. And it just didn't make sense. Like, why were we playing dice behind Waka Flocka on like side stage? But like, it just did. It just happened. And I just remember like reflecting on it, and it's like, it's a you had to be there scenario, but it's totally not. Because if you paint that picture, you're just like, what? Like, that's happening?
I've never like laughed or cried so much at like some nights at these events. Like the moments that come out are priceless.
I think my most memorable moment was there was some golf cart racing. All of us letting loose because everything had been taken care of, all the books had been closed, and it was just us. It was the most let loose moment of Gridlife staff that I've experienced so far. So like, when I tell people like what I do, they don't really understand because it's such a big thing. That's kind of what I like about it, that there's so many facets to it. There's so many gears that make this whole machine work, and they're all really rad things. Yeah, and I guess that's the other side of like the vibe thing, is the flexibility. Is like, we're all flexible and we can figure out ways around each problem. It'll be fine.
One of the reasons I think that I fit well with Gridlife is because everyone here is romantic about it. Like, it's a passionate love affair with motorsports and just this experience. It's the vibes. That's probably one of the most overused and underrated words that we use as a team is vibes. Like, if you could sum up Gridlife, it's vibes. We want those good vibes. And I tell a lot of drivers this, and it's never to really like get them juiced up or anything, but it's true when I say that I was a fan before I was a friend. And I still am a fan of a lot of drivers that I'm now friends with, which is really, really cool.
I'm just super excited for this facility. I think Alpine Horizon is a great first year event for us. It's just moments like last night, we were up here in our production building on the roof, and we're looking down, and Borgore was playing. The crowd had to leave because we had crazy weather coming. They came back and they flooded it back up with like good energy and people dancing, having a great time. And there's just cars driving around, and it just feels like sensory overload in every direction here. It's like getting to be the pie in the sky. Like, wouldn't it be cool if? We're getting closer every time.
We feel like our biggest product though is like smiles and vibes, and we're just using these things to create it. Except for like the few minutes here and there where you're stressed because you're working into a festival, it's like the happiest place in the world. But it's a hard job to like turn it into a company when it was your passion project. But it's definitely happening. People want it all over the place, so I guess we're gonna have to throw parties for people. Throwing parties is kind of fun. It's kind of fun, but.